Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on the 7 habits of highly effective people with me, Jason Duncan, the entrepreneur's coach at Results Through Integrity. And today is a special day. There's a lot of things going on. First of all, I'm coming to you from a different location. I'm in my backyard next to my koi pond. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to tell you about it in just a moment. But what I want to do before we get started is I want to ask you, if you would, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. My YouTube subscribers continue to grow. I'm up close to 900 now, and I want to thank you for subscribing and tuning in each week for my content on the 7 habits of highly effective people, and then also my content on Friday sales tips. So thank you. And if you haven't followed me on Instagram or LinkedIn, please do so at either location at The Real Jason Duncan. So let's talk about today's 7 habits of highly effective tip. We're talking about this card deck from Stephen Covey's organization called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and they have 52 cards, one for every week of the year, and I've been going through these methodically over the year here in 2020. Now, for those of us that are watching this in 2020, you will know that this is the craziest year by far, probably ever in the history of our country or the history of our world. Lots of crazy stuff is going on, and that brings us to this tip for today, which is this. It is week 31, and it says to balance courage and consideration. To balance courage and consideration. So the 2 on the front of the card, as it does every week, gives you a couple of action items, things to think about or to do. And it says this: pick an area where you would like to have more courage. Write down your point of view. Share your ideas and opinions with confidence. Now, a lot of us right now are dealing with a lot of weird things. The mass media is pushing an agenda down our throats about things that may or may not be true. The government leaders are doing things that we may or may not agree with. And schools are weird. Schools are getting going, and a lot of that requires courage to push through rather than operating out of fear. And if you follow me on social media, you know that I've been posting a lot about fear, because I believe that fear never leads to any place worth going. And it is actually courage that leads us to where we want to go. And courage is not the absence of fear. It is the reality that fear exists and pushing on anyway. Courage is the place that leads us where we want to go. So in this week, on week 31, the habit here is for us to pick an area where we'd like to have more courage. And maybe it is about what's going on in our current society today. Maybe it's something at work. Maybe it's something with your spouse, or maybe it's something with your kids. But whatever it is, write that down, write your feelings down, and then share your ideas and opinions with confidence. Have courage. Don't let fear control you. Now, the other side of that, of course, it says balance courage and consideration, is something also to consider. And it says this: pick a situation where you need to demonstrate more consideration. Focus on acknowledging others, not interrupting, and making sure everyone has a chance to be heard. Now, see, this is the other side of courage. A lot of times courage ends up turning into just being a jerk, turning into a blowhard, turning into an egocentrical, maniacal person that no one wants to be around. And so what it requires to prevent that is something that Stephen Covey calls consideration. It is considering or thinking about how your actions and words will affect others. So as much as I want to encourage you to be courageous in this time of fear and not let fearmongers or the media or anyone else lead you to places you don't want to go just because of fear, I want you to be courageous. What I also want to encourage you to do is to not become a jerk. Make sure you balance courage with consideration. Now, why am I in the backyard? I told you I would tell you. The reason I'm in the backyard this morning is I'm shooting this video fairly early on a Monday morning, and the reason I'm not doing it in my office is that today is the last morning that my daughter is going to be sleeping in her bedroom, which is just adjacent to my office, before she heads off to college. And so as a dad, of course, I'm a little sad, a little melancholy, a bittersweet opportunity here for her to go off and start her life on her own. But I wanted to consider her feelings by not making this video that might wake her up. So balance courage and consideration. Now, on the back of the card, it gives an ask yourself question. It says, are there relationships in which you lack courage or consideration? What price are you paying? Now, as you think about those relationships you have in your life, there's some that probably lack courage. You're letting the other people walk all over you. And others, you may be the one who's walking over other people, and you need to give more consideration. It goes on to say that to be highly effective means to be courageous. We are willing and able to speak our thoughts respectfully. It also means being considerate. We are willing and able to seek out and listen to others' thoughts and feelings with respect. I can tell you that my experience on major social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter lead me to believe that most people aren't highly effective because they're not being courageous or considerate, especially that former, the considerate, or the latter rather, the considerate. All right, the quote from Stephen Covey today says this: "If people can express their feelings and convictions with courage balanced with consideration for the feelings and convictions of others, they are mature, particularly if the issue is very important to both parties." So I guess you could you could say that Stephen Covey says we need to grow up a little bit. We need to be mature. We need to balance courage and consideration. Thanks for tuning in this week, and I will see you next week.